Good morning everybody, welcome back to another video here on the channel. We are out in the garden this morning because we are going to be creating our very own fermented plant extract or a fermented plant juice. We're going to be using some of the amazing cover crop that is growing behind us. We need to chop and drop and take some of that away. We're going to be using that a little bit today to create our fermented plant juice, along with some compost, some weeds from around the garden, and of course the Shed Organic amendments and rock dusts. So stay tuned, we're going to dive straight into that. We're going to explain exactly what we're doing and why, and we're going to make a fantastic all-round fertilizer for the garden that you can do at home. Let's jump straight in. So what is a fermented plant extract, and how do we use it and why? Essentially, we're harnessing the natural microbes. We're feeding the beneficial microorganisms that come as part of the EM1, the Lacto, bacillus, and all of these types of wonderful organisms. We're essentially creating the perfect environment to grow these microbes and multiply them. We're inoculating with a small amount of these microbes. We're providing some of the plant material that we want them to digest and extract some of those minerals, hormones, and amazing enzymes out of. And then we're providing a food source in the form of a blackstrap unsulfured molasses today. Now that's also going to feed those microbes so they have something to eat whilst they're breaking down this plant material and multiplying in this liquid solution. And then at the end, we're going to find ourselves with a deliciously potent all-round fertilizer that we can use for our garden. Now you can be really specific. You can choose ingredients that are designed to extract the right kind of enzymes, microbes, and nutrients that you are specifically after. For example, if we were to take some of these new shoots that are coming out, these plants here are full of vegetative growth. There's no flowering, there's no fruiting going on. This is vegetative growth. So all of these growth enzymes and plant growth promoters are focused towards vegetative growth. So we might use these if that's what we're trying to achieve in our fertilizer. On the flip side, if I took a little flowering plant like this, or some of our buckwheat cover crop there that's flowering, these plants are flowering, which means they are sending the energy into flowering and fruiting. Now this means that all those hormones and those enzymes and things directed towards that process are going to be in our extract. So therefore we can use it for fruiting and flowering plants. Now the same goes for our weeds as well. I'm going to be choosing a couple of weed species that are popping up in this front garden that I can pull and utilize, because remember, weeds are a signpost. They're a pioneer species, and these weeds we can take from the garden because they're coming here to provide some sort of role, building nutrition or providing some sort of structural changes to the soil. We're going to take those specific weeds and we're going to use them in our extract so that those nutrients are then provided to the soil all over, and hopefully are going to provide that job that the weeds are trying to do and eliminate the need for them to come back up again. So what do we need? How do we make this specific brew? Now, you might need yourself one of these. This is a very, very basic homemade fermenter, and you can go and buy fermenters from various different brewing shops and things. They're very, very easy to find. They just need to be airtight, so there's no oxygen going inside. And there needs to be one of these, which is somewhat like an airlock device. If I show you up to the screen here, you can see that mine is simply a garden hose that's been duct taped out of the top of the lid, and it's going into a milk bottle, an empty bottle here, that is strapped very well, not very beautifully, to the outside of the bucket. Now, we're going to fill this with water as well. So what's going to happen is the carbon dioxide is going to be pushed down through this little air valve, and it's going to bubble away nicely. So we can see the fermentation process happening. If we didn't have this airlock, it would create this internal pressure. It would need to be burped or released, much like things when we're making our sauerkraut or our fermented cabbages and various kimchis and things. You need to have some sort of airlock device so that it has the opportunity for that air to escape without oxygen getting in and ruining the blend. So that's the bucket. The next thing we need is some blackstrap molasses. This is organic blackstrap molasses that I got for $5 for a jar just off Amazon. I think I got this particular one. but it needs to be unsulfured. Usually your blackstrap molasses means that it's unsulfured because it's gone through extra processes of boiling. But organic, obviously, as much as you can, blackstrap molasses. Okay, this is exactly what we need. We don't need very much of it for a 20-litre bucket. The next and probably most important part of this whole brew is the EM1. This is our lactobacillus and EM1 inoculant from the wonderful organicferments.com. So I will go and link this product in the description below. You can go and see exactly what it is and how to get it from the legend Cam at Organic Ferments. He is teaching some wonderful ways of doing ferments, and this is a great way to showcase how to use this product to turn a really cheap, inexpensive inoculant material into liters and liters of fertilizer over and over again. So shout out to you, Cam. Thank you so much for the knowledge, and we're going to be following your FPE recipe on here. If we have a little read on here, you can see the FPE recipe there. There's also a KNF recipe, but the FPE one is a 1 to 1 to 1 to 100. So here he's got 25 liters of reverse osmosis or rainwater, and then 1 cup or 250 mils of each of the other ingredients. Now, because our bucket isn't quite 25 liters, I'm gonna have to reduce all of those numbers slightly. This is a 20-liter pail, and realistically, we're probably gonna only do 19 liters or just under that top. So it's got a little bit of an air gap for that air to escape through the valve. So we're gonna do slightly under or around 200 mils, 200 grams, 190, something like this, to balance out our 1 to 1 to 1 to 100 recipe. Okay, first job before we dive in and throw everything into the bucket is we need to collect some of the plant species that we're going to be using in this delicious blend. So let's go around the garden and we're going to take a few different species. Remember, biodiversity is key. The more diversity that we have in our plant species and our ingredients, the more diversity we're going to be developing into this liquid fertilizer. So I'm going to try and choose a few different species and ones that we might want to use to fertilize this whole space here. We're going to kill two birds with one stone today, because you can see this citrus plant here, in fact all of these citrus plants are starting to get inundated with the cover crop around their base. So we're going to just clear the base area around these citrus plants, and under here as well. You can see some of these species are starting to crowd out our beautiful pineapples down there. So I'm going to come in and chop and drop some of these just around the stem. We're going to use some of these species. Perfect. See, this is actually quite a few different species already just from round one tree. I don't need much more than this, so we might just use this and I'll just continue doing that job on my own, just to chop and drop under the trees. But this is plenty of cover crop material already. Now here, underneath the passion fruits, we have this weed growing. Now this is called asthma weed. You can kind of tell because it seems to have these nice little delicate opposite leaves. They have these sort of seed pods and flowers that come in between in the middle. But this is another one that's helping to break up compaction, provide some shade, and then also get into there and dig out some of the nutrients. So I'm just going to pull off some of the top of this weed here. But remember, we don't need a huge amount of it, so this is perfect. I'm going to chop and use some of this in our wonderful brew. The other thing we're going to do is steal a banana leaf that's come off one of these sort of dwarf bananas. This desperately needs to go in the ground, but we're going to steal one of the dead banana leaves because that also always has some nice nutrients. Coming around the back here, look at these vibrant potatoes looking wonderful. I'm going to steal some of this comfrey under here, take some of the little leaves, some of these big ones, and steal some. So we just need a couple of comfrey leaves as well. Comfrey is always amazing for an FPJ. And lastly, I'm just going to steal a little bit of aloe from the aloe patch, because I am a huge fan of aloe. There's so many amazing things that you can do with aloe. So we're going to steal one of these and use this in there too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we have our plant material. Look at this. This is just amazing. There's so many cool plant species, some great diversity in here. There's probably too much. Look, there's like 2 big handfuls worth. So I'm gonna kind of break up little parts of this. The smaller the better. We're gonna take little pieces. You can chop it as well. You can take a little piece of scissors. So I'm gonna grab the secateurs and start chopping it and adding it to the bucket. So remember, 1 part, we're really looking for only about a cup of really chopped up material. I'm gonna go slightly heavier handed on this just to include a little bit more diversity, but you really only need a cup roughly for about this size of bucket. Comfrey, tearing the leaves up, getting those in there nicely. Let's chop this aloe. We'll use the fiskars in here just to try and chop those into smaller pieces, allow some of those plants extract compounds to be better released. So that's in there. The banana, just strip some of the banana in there too. Okay, that can be chopped and dropped. Some more of the weeds. In fact, the weeds in the cover crop, we can just tear up. That's it. Dropping it in there. All right. So that's going to give us some great diversity. The rest of this is just going to go back on the trees behind me. So there we have it. All of our plant material in the bottom there. Okay, not too much. If you squish this right down, it would probably be about a cup. So we don't want to go too crazy. So plant material in there first. And going off the recipe, Lacto in one, we need 250 ml or 1 part again, so roughly equal parts. I've got 2 different cup measurement sizes here, which are going to equate to about 200 ml. Oh my goodness. There's pressure in this already. You can see it dripping out. The smell is incredible. It smells almost vinegary and delicious. So 1 cup. Well, this is actually half a cup. And then we're just going to fill that other part of this one up to make it up to the 200 ml. There we go. Into the bucket. So realistically, we didn't use very much at all. That was 200 ml. This is a liter, so you can get 5 good lots of this. So technically 1 liter here can make you 100 liters of fertilizer, which is crazy because this price is ridiculously good. Thank you, Cam. Same again with our molasses. We're going to be doing the exact same ratio. Remember, molasses is crazy thick, crazy syrupy. Check this out. Ready? Oh, look at that. That's delicious. Microbe food right there. Whoops, we're going to go over the top. Whee! Into the bucket. And because it coats the outside, it does take a little bit to try and get off these cups. You can mix this with hot water if you want to, sort of dilute it, like mix it around, make sure it's better suited to that, but realistically, it's still gonna work. Gosh, this molasses part is literally the messiest bit, so just watch out getting all of this sticky stuff on your hands, taking it inside. We'll move these away. Amazing. A couple of other ingredients that we're going to be putting in here. The first one, well, these are both actually from Ocean Grown. These are fish hydrolysate and kelp sources. So what this is doing, we're going to be adding in a bit of liquid fish because a fermented fish extract is just so good for the garden. We really don't need very much, so I'm only going to do a few mil, maybe 5 to 10 mil. Same goes for the kelp. Now, kelp is amazing. There's so many trace nutrients in kelp. We're going to be using this deep sea sugar and kelp mix and just ferment it a little bit further, take some of the nutrients from this, spread them all around. It is already water soluble, so this is a great thing to just use straight onto your plants, but just throwing it in here, we're just enriching the brew even further. The kelp also has this wonderful chelating effect, so it can chelate a lot of the minerals, help make them more available to the plant easier. So another really wonderful thing. You can put straight kelp, straight dried kelp, which we're going to be doing in a second as part of this mix. This is a bit of the Morpheus compost up the top, and you can see the #1 blend down the bottom. I'm not going to use all of this. I'm only going to do a little pinch of each. But again, we're inoculating with wonderful organic matter, diversity, and a huge range of microbes that we're going to have access to after this. So a little bit of the kelp, same thing, only a few mil. We really don't need very much of that at all. Okay, let's take some of the compost. light sprinkle of the compost in there. Okay, let me get the rest of that compost out. Just sprinkle that over there. Number 1 blend. There you go, look at that. All those wonderful organic amendments. We're gonna throw about that much in. Rock dusts, ocean mineral sources, the lot. We've got so much diversity that's now in there. All we need to do is top it up with water. So here I have a container of water. This is reverse osmosis water, which means it's gone through a filtration system inside my house to remove any of the chlorine and some of the chemicals that can be really harmful to these bacteria. So if you're only having access to town water, I highly suggest going to try and use demineralized water or dechlorinated or even some form of filtered water if you don't have access to rainwater, because the town water is not great quality, especially to drink. So don't be drinking the town water. But reverse osmosis is what we've got here, and we're just going to be filling the bucket until just off the top. So that's about half full now. We basically want to go and mix all of this around, and then I'm going to go and top up the rest of it up to about this level up here. So let's get a little mix going on. I like to just get my hands in it. I mean, I don't know about you, but just mixing it around, trying to mix all of that molasses, all of that deliciousness all over the plants, integrating it all in there. Look at this, this is perfect. Look at that material. We're going to be stripping and eating all of that material. So let me go and fill this up. So while that fills up, I just want to talk to you about the next few steps. So I've obviously got to fill the bottle on the outside so that we've got that transfer of the carbon dioxide, seeing it bubbling. But what are we going to do with it once we're finished? Well, we're going to set up that airlock. So we're going to put the lid on, set up the airlock into the bottle, and then we're going to leave it for possibly a month. Okay, we can keep checking this as well. We can also keep checking the pH, because when the pH drops to a really nice low level, I think somewhere around 3 to 4, it's ready to use. It's more shelf stable. You can use it earlier than that. It just will go off quicker. So to get it to shelf stable position, we just need to go all the way through to make sure that it's got that really low pH. So we can keep testing that. Another way of working out whether it's done or not is to see whether it stops bubbling. So if there's no more bubbles coming out of that bottle and you can't see it bubbling anymore, then you know that it's ready to use as well. Unfortunately, this filter does take a little bit of time to fill up, but we're getting there. Now that the bucket is finally finished, the lid goes on. Remember, secure all the way around the edge of the lid. And then we need to make sure that this, obviously my makeshift tape seal there needs to be nice. And then the hose goes down and into the bottle, and you can see that sort of disappears into the water there, and it's going to keep bubbling away. Now, this is all sealed up. It's nice and airtight, and I'm going to move it out of the sun because we don't want any direct sunlight on here. And there we have it, guys. We're going to leave that for a few weeks, and we're going to check back in and see exactly how it's doing, and in a few weeks we're going to be able to fertilize the garden with it. So a very simple and easy homemade fertilizer recipe. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried this before, or if I missed anything that you think can really help supercharge your homemade fertilizers. But otherwise, go and check the link in the description for organicferments.com, the EM1 solution. Thanks again to that legend for providing it for us. Obviously, I bought it. This is not sponsored, but I just love talking about things that work really, really well. So thank you, Cam. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, follow along for more videos, and I can't wait to see you next time with a big garden update out here in the front garden. Take care and see you soon.